Hello, I'm Melinda Posner, Parks Planner with Washington State Parks. This presentation provides information about the planning process State Parks is going through to develop new land use plans for Alta Lake and Bridgeport State Parks and how you can provide input. Please note, this presentation has been updated since it was first posted on January 31st. Consistent with the revised report that was dated January 30th and which is now on the website, replacing the first report. For your information, a correction has been made to the Bridgeport preliminary recommendations map and the land classification table in the report. LC1 and LC2 were transposed and are now correct. We tried this video format last fall to make it easier for everyone to participate, including park visitors from outside the area. We received nearly 60 online comments using this format, including positive feedback about having this option as an alternative to attending a public meeting. We hope you find it helpful and invite you to continue to tell us how we can improve our outreach methods. Please take 10 minutes to watch this presentation. It describes preliminary recommendations for each park, and with your input will inform the next step of the process. The preliminary recommendations is stage 3 in the classification and management planning, or CAMP process. You can find an overview of CAMP and all of the materials on the web page. The boundaries for Alta Lake State Park are outlined with this thin yellow line. It includes 2 pieces of property. The green shaded area is property owned by the U.S. Forest Service, and the surrounding property is owned by private property owners. Bridgeport State Park includes land owned by the Army Corps of Engineers and Washington State Parks. Washington State Parks ownership is outlined in this shaded green area. The land owned by the Army Corps of Engineers is here in the brown primarily, though you can see the golf course here and also the developed recreation areas. The next 2 slides summarize the issues identified in stage 1. Take a moment to review the list. Ideally, the CAMP process will address each issue. However, some will be more fully explored in the narrative management plans which are written for each park and are not tied directly to the land use classifications and long-term boundary recommendations. For example, boating and public safety is something that the park staff will address through signage, so you won't see that represented on the attached maps, but it is something we will discuss in the management plan. Here is the list of Bridgeport issues. I'll give you a moment to review that list. Okay, now we'll move on to the recommendations. This is a list of the Alta Lake preliminary recommendations. It's a summary of the highlights. Addressing boating and public safety is something I mentioned earlier, as well as exploring options to transfer the lake level management system, restoring the Cliff and Day Use Trail, as well as developing more trails, and expanding camping where possible, as well as considering some areas of expansion of the long-term boundary. The map shows recommendations for land classifications, noted as LC, and for long-term boundary considerations, noted as LTB. Each land classification is highlighted with a different color to note the intensity of use. The same colors are used for both LC and LTB, except that they are a lighter shade in the LTB areas. A listing of the land classification categories and definitions is included in the report on the website. At Alta Lake, there's interest in providing additional camping options where possible. So in this map, we've included extensions of the existing camp loops 1 and 3. So LTB 2 and 6 are potential areas where a few more campsites and possibly cabins could be developed, as well as considering restoring the group camp for hiking and bicyclists. An issue of this camp was also to confirm whether the cliff trail should be retained or abandoned. That trail follows a route in this area of the park. There's a high level of support for this, so a key recommendation includes sustainable design for this trail, as well as the trail that goes from the boat ramp to the day use area. Other trail enhancements include an extension of the cliff trail, possibly a loop up to Goat Mountain, as well as a trail extension on the east side that would follow an existing trail used by the Whispering Pines Resort trail rides. Several long-term boundary recommendations include trails too. LTB 1, which is located here, is classified for resource recreation, which would allow low or moderate intensity recreation uses. This would support trail development as well as protect the existing viewshed and wildlife corridor. LTB 3 similarly would restrict development to that which is consistent with trail use, including the existing informal trail that comes from the Alta Lake Golf Course neighborhood into the park. LTB 4, located right here, would put the rest of the existing wetland within the park boundary and would classify it and the existing wetland portion that is within the park boundary as natural, which would limit development to possibly an interpretive trail. LTB 5, which is located down here, includes developing a high-intensity recreation area at the south end of the park, which could include camping, day use, water access, and be the terminus of an east side trail segment. Managing lake levels has been an ongoing effort since the late 1960s. State Parks has partnered with the Friends of Alta Lake and the Alta Lake Golf Course for many years to address the fluctuating lake levels. Concerns about flooding, recreation impacts, and funding have continued since the pump and pipeline system, which draw water from the Methow River, was built in the early 1970s at legislative direction. This recommendation includes transferring responsibility for lake level management to other parties. February 2016 was the last time water was pumped into the lake, and since then the water has been used solely for golf course irrigation. Now let's move on to Bridgeport preliminary recommendations. These are some of the highlights. Reusing the golf course land and managing consistent with the Army Corps lease were two of the key issues at Bridgeport. We also heard about a need to improve and expand the number of RV sites, expanding trail systems, improving access to the swim area, and continued coordination with the Colville tribe. So this map illustrates the recommendations for Bridgeport. In LC1, this is the former golf course area and much of the existing developed areas in the park. The former golf course area is a prime location above the lake and will allow for expanded camping here. It could include group camp, tent sites, as well as RV, as well as having some trail development towards the edge of the area and connecting to existing trails that have been developed by the Army Corps of Engineers to the west. This area will also support the development of some type of programmable space, amphitheater or event space that can be used for multiple purposes, including cultural, interpretive, and environmental education events and programming. These concepts are all supported in the land classification area label as LC1. LC2 is classified as resource recreation, which will support trail development in this portion of the park, but otherwise would retain the existing undeveloped shrub steppe landscape in its current state. And there also is a little strip of this LC2 resource rec here, again, for development of a trail. This recommendation is consistent with interests of the Colville Confederated Tribe, who noted the area's value in providing winter habitat for mule deer, as well as other plant and animal species who thrive in the arid shrub steppe environment. The tribe has expressed interest in managing portions of Bridgeport State Park, including the area noted as LC2. Parks has asked the tribe to provide more information about their concept and intended management so it can be considered in the current camp process. After the public meeting on January 29th, we'll be collecting comments and using the feedback to prepare the final recommendation for the Washington State Parks and Recreation Commission's March meeting. Now it's your turn. Tell us what you think. Click the link below or click the comments button on the website and let us know how we can refine these recommendations and/or your support for them as described. Thank you for taking the time to participate.